David and Paul and I started talking about what the mission that Gaingels had at the core. It had started as a way for LGBT investors to invest in other LGBT founders, but at the core, the reason for it was to try to make venture as a space and as an ecosystem one that was better, that was more diverse and inclusive, because it felt like there was this angle, this slice of the diversity pie, so to speak, that was not being paid attention to. There were other investors and venture groups that were focused on women or on people of color or various subgroups within it, but there was no one that was focused on the LGBTQ community. But at the same time, now this is 2013 to 2018, we also realized that it was actually not as helpful to only focus on one aspect. Because whenever there is or there isn't diversity shortcomings within the leadership structure of a company, board or C-suite, or even within the cap table, it is often true that there may be some diversity, but not a full 360 degrees look about how to be truly inclusive. And so we also decided that it was more useful to not constantly be, quote unquote, preaching to the choir or being into our own echo chamber, and rather be talking to companies that maybe were significantly behind the ball when it comes to building inclusive organizations and being truly helpful players within the ecosystem would actually move the ball or move the needle forward in a more meaningful way. And so that's when I joined them as a partner in the group, and we broadened the scope of what Gaingels was, while at the core maintaining the mission of helping to create a more diverse and equitable and a more accessible venture ecosystem at all levels of leadership, which means investing in diverse teams that may be women or people of color or LGBTQ founders, but helping those teams round out that diversity, bringing more leaders that are from underrepresented backgrounds, both on their C-suite and team, but also on their board of directors, which is a big thing that Gaingels does very actively. And we've been doing very successfully too, as well as representing true diversity in the cap table of those companies. And this is something that it's been getting more attention, but in the past was never really being looked at, which is you can have diversity of perspectives and opinions and representation in a company, but if the value that company is creating ultimately flows to always the same communities and the same group, you lose the opportunity to create generational wealth and more education and more advancements for larger, broad swaths of the population and other communities. And bringing one of the biggest missing pieces there is access. And folks may have the financial resources to invest, but they might not have the networks. They might not have the negotiating heft or the clout to get into the opportunities that ultimately are somewhat de-risked or less risky, and often the ones that are going to generate an outsized amount of the returns. And so that's really where it started to change. And Gaingels is now grown into a broad sort of venture syndicate that invests in diverse teams and helps bring more diversity on the cap table and leadership structure of all of our portfolio companies, investing across sectors and across stages, and providing that opportunity to a large, diversified group of investors that both resonate with our mission, as well as obviously look for great opportunities to realize profitable investment returns.